President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has met with the newly appointed service chiefs at the presidential villa in Abuja, their first known meeting since their appointments last week. The service chiefs arrived at the villa at about 3:55 p.m. local time yesterday, led by the new Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, who until his recent appointment served as Chief of Army Staff. Last week, President Tinubu announced sweeping changes in the military hierarchy, naming Lieutenant General Oluyede as Chief of Defense Staff to replace General Christopher Musa. Major General W. Shaibu was appointed Chief of Army Staff. Air Vice Marshal S.K. Aneke became Chief of Air Staff, and Rear Admiral I. Abbas took over as Chief of Naval Staff. Major General E.A.P. Undiedeye retained his position as Chief of Defense Intelligence. Details of the meeting has not been made public. Announcing the appointment, the President charged the new appointees to justify the confidence reposed in them by enhancing professionalism, vigilance, and comradeship within the armed forces. In politics, tension continues to heighten within Nigeria's major opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, ahead of its national convention, as former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido has threatened to head to court after being allegedly denied the opportunity to obtain a form to contest for the office of the national chairman at the party's national secretariat in Abuja. Arise correspondent Mary Chinda reports that while Lamido queried the lack of transparency in the sale of nomination forms, Kabiru Turaki, who was endorsed by northern governors last week, has since submitted his own form. Moving on to electoral matters, the new chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amupitan, SAN, yesterday said the country could no longer afford a situation where the courts would continue to decide winners of elections. Amupitan said elections must be won and lost at the polling units. Addressing participants at the 56th Annual Conference of Nigerian Association of Law Teachers, NALT, held at the University of Abuja, Amupitan expressed his determination to work towards reducing pre-election litigations in Nigeria. He urged legal experts to work with the Commission to reform the electoral system. Insisting that the court could not continue to determine elections, he said elections would be won at the polling units if proper law framework was put in place. He reaffirmed his commitment to uphold integrity, fairness, and transparency in Nigeria's electoral process, while promising to curb the rising tide of pre-election litigations, which he said have long burdened Nigeria's electoral process. He pointed out that if necessary reforms were made, losers in elections would not hesitate to congratulate the winners. And finally, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors is calling on President Bola Tinubu to be careful of some politicians surrounding him, saying they are not telling him the truth about the health sector. The organization also accused the federal government of demarketing the certificates of Nigerian doctors who hold them down from traveling out of the country for greener pastures overseas. The president of NARD, Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, raised the concerns while reading a communique issued at the conclusion of its extraordinary National Executive Council meeting on the impending indefinite strike scheduled to commence on Saturday, November 1. He directed its members to do a ward round in public hospitals and hand over their patients to consultants, describing the actions as a total, comprehensive, and indefinite strike.
Mr. President, Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I'm doing this at great personal risk. You are surrounded by politicians who come to tell you they are professionals. They are not. They are politicians with ambitions. They come to tell you, these resident doctors, leave these boys, they don't know what they're talking about. We have settled their problem. Our problem have not been settled. Mr. President, you are presiding over a nation where doctors have not received their rightful due even before you became president. And then these people are coming to you to tell you, these boys, don't mind them, don't mind them. I'm doing this at great personal risk. They are lying to you. Don't take my word for it. Call other unions. Ask if it is true for all the health care workers. I think the outstanding arrears is about 35 to 38 billion. The accoutrement allowance, for instance, for all doctors in Nigeria, Not just resident doctors, because if it's just resident doctors, we're just talking about maybe 400 million. But for all doctors in the country, 600, 800 million.
All right, Ufai, definitely the topic closest to my heart would be the NARD threatened strike by this Saturday, November 1, alongside education. These are critical sectors in the economy, in the nation, and if we're going to talk about economic prosperity, we must pay serious attention to these sectors. But beyond this, of course, is the news, the political news with the PDP, Sule Lamido obtaining his form. We talked about this yesterday, that he was meant to pick this yesterday. He was denied that. But your take on all the stories this morning?
I'm going to state empirical facts. This government claims that they have gotten more revenue from taxes. The question is, why have we not been able to pay up encumbrances? Formerly, this government used to tout the fact that ASU had never gone on strike under the administration. That record was broken a couple of weeks ago when ASU went on a 2-week warning strike. These doctors went on a 1-day strike, resident doctors, on the 12th of September. Somebody would have thought that that would have drawn this government's ears and warned them. And what are their demands? Remuneration, about 35 to 39 billion. The case of the Benue Teaching Hospital. Welfare. These are the things we have been talking about. But have they been met? No. In the last year, thousands of doctors, some numbers say over 5,000 doctors, have left the shores of this country. You are most likely, if you go to England or Saudi Arabia, you're most likely to meet a Nigerian doctor.
Treated by a Nigerian doctor, even the US.
In the US. So the question is, what changed? Because the welfare is better. In fact, now they are going to other countries. Anyway, one former minister in the last administration once said, there's no big deal, we'll have a lot of doctors, but the doctor-to-patient ratio keep plummeting. I would like to beg the government, listen to them. And like that doctor said, don't listen to the people that are telling you lies, President. But the problem I have with leaders is that once you seest a leader, seest a lot of Ahitophels. A lot of Ahitophelic counsel around the leader, and they mislead the leader in the end. Just like we're also saying, meet the demands of ASU. See, no matter how much you even pay them, it is still even small compared to the welfare package you get in other countries. I was shell-shocked when I heard that the welfare package some lecturers get, even in countries like Sierra Leone, far outweighs Nigeria. So those are the problems. And that's why we keep asking, all the monies you are saying you are making, where are we? Are we seeing the effect on the lives of the people? Because you see, when government make revenue, what are you supposed to use to do? Is it not these people you are supposed to serve? It's the lives of the people. And what sectors? Health, education, infrastructure, and all the sundry sectors. So that's why Ralph Waldo Emerson said, what you say, what you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you say. So if we say we are making so much money, and we are not doing with that money, as a far cry. As regards the PDP, you see, I have used the word comatose, I have used the word dead as dodo, I used the word, in the middle of the death and the deep blue sea. I don't know what else to use to describe it. And that's why I keep asking, are they sure that this convention will hold in the first place? Because I don't think so. What has happened is that the part that wants Turaki, despite the fact that I say, it's not consensus, the part wants Turaki has gotten the form. They said it's only one form they printed for the chairmanship of the party. Lamido has not gotten the form, so they've played him out of the equation. In fact, Sam Mayamu was saying the other time that the only one form they printed, they had given it to the governors, and they have tilted towards Turaki. Lamido is saying he's going to go to court. If Lamido goes to court, that adds to the litigation concerning this convention, because hitherto there's been already one litigation in court between Damagung tried to defend and even the National Legal Advisor, that both of them went head on. So you see, what is happening to PDP is just a clear case of African democracy and African internal party workings. And that's why, unless the PDP fix their problem, they are not going anywhere. I think whatever it is, they can, and I don't like it when they blame President Tinubu for their problem. Their greed has destroyed them. I mean, not to say there might not be internal machinations at working, so, but their greed has destroyed them, and it shows. As regards Mr. Amupitan saying poll must be won at the polling unit, is it when the polling units are also rigged? Didn't Mr. Amupitan here when the governor was saying that he will give people millions for winning their wards? Is that not an inducement to rigging, an extra way of winning election? What has INEC done about it? See, let me tell you something. As of today, I officially declare the honeymoon period of President Amupitan is over. And the criticism will come en masse after these Anambra elections. Because it is showing. We will have thought that he will have strongly nipped whatever happened in Anambra in the bud, and even condemn also the APC when we were talking about even the registration and inducing people with money. President Amupitan, your time starts now. We are already judging you. And in fact, on our scorecard, you're already failing. Because if governors can openly, yes, and I say it boldly, if governors can openly say they are going to induce, and we've not heard anything from INEC, is that not failure already? And you think elections like that will be won in the polling unit? It's rigging that happens in the polling unit, and when they now get to the legal system, we all know what the legal system has become in this country. We all know legal system. We all know how a joke the word go to court has become.
All right.
If you don't nip these two cases, but you're already failing, President Amupitan.
All right, maybe
I will not say that Professor Amupitan
That's my opinion,
is
Doctor.
already failing. Yeah, I'm trying to qualify it. To say that this is a man who was just sworn in only last week, Thursday. He has just started the job. Now, he went to the conference of the National Association of Law Teachers, NALT, and what was the main substance of his submission at that occasion? He was telling his colleagues to say that, look, I'm your ambassador. I cannot do this job alone. It requires collective responsibility. And you, as the law teachers in this country, you should help me with scholarship, you should help me with advocacy, you should help me with whatever strength this association of law teachers have. And he said he wants their prayers. It's not only the prayers of Association of Law Teachers that he needs. He needs our prayers too. He also needs our support because on the surface of it, the job of an INEC chairman is a difficult job based on precedence, based on experience. And our only prayer coming from this side of the desk is to say that may Nigeria not happen to him.
Amen.
However, what I saw in demonstration in terms of Joash Amupitan's presentation in front of his colleagues is that he seems to understand the assignment. And some of the points he made about, look, elections should be determined not at the courts, but at the polling units. This is what we have always been asking for. He says that Nigeria needs a strong electoral framework and legal framework and reform for INEC to be able to function effectively. This is the same thing that we have all been saying. We're saying that there should be an electoral offenses commission, for example, whereby all kinds of charlatans and saboteurs and fifth columnists who try to sabotage the electoral process are called to order and properly sanctioned. Civil society groups are asking for increased women representation. They are asking for greater efficiency in the operations of INEC. And Joash Amupitan was saying to law teachers that, look, he believes that credibility is important, integrity is important, fairness is important, and that he has an obligation to provide the necessary leadership to deliver on those causes. To the extent that he understands what the basic issues here, I will not try to add to it. He's an academic, so he has shown enough understanding of the assignment. What Nigerians now expect is for him to deliver on his promise. The support that he is asking for, not just for law teachers to give him that support, but for the Nigerian people, for the political professional class, and also for government to make sure that he has the necessary resources, since we have a man who says he understands the problem. Others before him who also understood the problem, they had issues because this is Nigeria. And the whole message, fundamentally, in my view, is that until we have a situation whereby the people's votes are made to count, and they count in real terms, then we will not be making progress with this democracy. We might as well be going in the direction of Côte d'Ivoire, the direction of Uganda, and the direction of
Cameroon.
Of the poor people of Cameroon, who have the oldest head of state in the world, who says he wants to be there till he's 99 and probably die in office. So we should focus on the issues. That's one. Two, former Governor Sule Lamido went yesterday to the secretariat of the PDP, the Wadata Plaza. He says he wanted to collect form, for nomination for chairmanship. He is aware, he must be aware, unless he's playing possum, that the PDP, the committee led by Fintiri, the governor of Adamawa State, provided a timetable for the collection of nomination forms. That collection of nomination forms, the deadline already passed. And then after the deadline has passed, Sule Lamido shows up, he says he wants to collect form. A political party must be organized. It must have its own principles in terms of how it organizes itself. The screening of the candidate was for the chairmanship was supposed to hold today. But Governor Fintiri says now they have suspended it, they've postponed it. Why? Because there is a matter pending before the court of Justice James Omotosho. Ruling will be given on October 31st. I think, in the thinking of the leadership of the PDP, they decided that it will amount to contempt to go ahead and screen candidates while the court is going to rule on the determination that status quo should be maintained. And so you have on one hand Samuel Anyanwu, National Secretary, saying, well, nobody has carried him along and all of that. You have Nyesom Wike on the other hand saying they are not consulting him. If anybody does not consult him, nothing will happen in the party. How can one individual, whoever he may be, constitute himself into the sole authority in a political party that is supposed to be an aggregation of collective interests of people who are following in that direction? So I would not say that the convention, November 15 to 16, will not take place. It remains to be seen. But what we can say clearly is that the PDP remains a troubled party. And I agree with you, Rufai Hussaini, that they should stop blaming the APC or President Tinubu. They should put their own house in order. How do they have this collection of traitors, who say their ambition is to collapse the party? As for the resident doctors, who are resident doctors? These are young men and women who have completed their undergraduate training as doctors. They now have to go to postgraduate training, and they operate under the umbrella of what is called National Association of Resident Doctors. Now, they say that they are not well treated in a country where doctors are living in droves. The last time their salaries were reviewed was 19 years ago. So they claim. This time, the federal government of Nigeria is owing them 39 billion naira. And they're saying that, look, you have to improve our working conditions. You have to focus on the one-for-one replacement policy. When a doctor succumbs to the Japa syndrome, you replace him, now or her. Now they say arrears and allowances have to be paid. Residency training fund that has been abandoned has to be paid. In total, a number of 19 demands. They are even asking for health infrastructure. Now, they have the right to ask for better working conditions, for infrastructure, because indeed these resident doctors, in real terms, constitute the bulk of the medical operatives in the public health sector in Nigeria. So it shows insensitivity for them to be treated absolutely shabbily, as we are seeing. Second is the attitude of the Nigerian government to labor issues. Now, the resident doctors, they gave notice on September 14 of a 5-day warning strike. They were ignored. At the end of the 5-day warning strike, they gave notice for 2 weeks. They were ignored. They later changed the 5-day warning strike to 30 days. They were ignored. And now they're saying that effective Saturday, November 1, they are going to go on total and indefinite strike. What it means is that the hospital public health system in Nigeria would be grounded. And the people who will pay the price are the ordinary people of Nigeria who are seeking access to healthcare. Healthcare that is not even affordable in the first place. Most of the senior doctors, they are not even on duty when they are needed. It is these resident doctors who help to provide the healthcare. Now the federal government of Nigeria has also not listened. What is likely to happen is a knee-jerk reaction, panic reaction that we always see, panic response. When it is November 1 now and maybe the strike starts, you will see the Federal Ministry of Health will suddenly wake up, government will suddenly wake up, and they will resort to blackmail. They will say they are talking to the resident doctors. We don't want that kind of situation because health, just as education, should be considered a major priority in this country. As for the service chiefs, well, they met with the president. You know, Oluyede used to be chief of army staff. He's an insider, so he provides continuity. The other chiefs of staff, if you look at their profiles, they are battle-tested generals. So they understand what the assignment is all about. Just as Amupitan also understands the basic theoretical foundational issues that he has to deal with. What we expect from the new chief of defense staff is result. The people who were there before them, Gabon Musa, Christopher Gabon Musa, as chief of defense staff, he tried his best, and I think we should give him his flowers. But now, you know, there was some rumor about coup, some speculation about coup. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu acted swiftly. I think he acted wisely too. The opposition is saying he's a coward, he's afraid of coup. When they have the opportunity in the future to be president of Nigeria, if they hear the whiff of, oh, somebody wants to seize power, let them sleep on it. I think that the president has acted wisely. What remains is for the new service chiefs to act responsibly and to show that they can make a difference so that in this country, farmers can go to farm. All of us can sleep at home. All the ungoverned spaces will be governed so that, there will be peace and we will have respite from banditry, from kidnappers, from insurgents. We will assess them on the basis of their performance. They must remember that, from Oluyede to the other members of the team, including the Director of Defense Intelligence, who is the only one who seems to have retained this position. But that's another story.
Well, with regards to the service chiefs, I'm glad that we finally get to talk about it. And I agree with you, Dr. Bati, that we must give General Christopher Gabon Musa his flowers. During his tenure as Chief of Defense Staff, I had the opportunity to read a compendium for his 2-year anniversary as the Chief of Defense Staff and just highlighting or detailing his achievements, his wins. I always talk about my time when I went to Maiduguri, and that's why I met him, was the outgoing commander at the time stationed in Maiduguri, Lafia Dole and Hadinkai. And I think the testimony from the locals and the residents is what made me take an interest in his person. And they had very good things to say about him with regards to how under his watch they were able to settle and resettle communities in Maiduguri, and they were able to get a semblance of peace, and life was being restored to the state. So on hearing that he had been appointed as Chief of Defense Staff was welcome news. And during his time, he made that phrase kinetic and non-kinetic very popular. There were mixed feelings around this, mixed analysis on this, but we must talk about his efforts in ensuring that whilst using force, he also was able to use dialogue, negotiations, community development as a strategy to pushing back on terrorism. So alongside the other service chiefs, this is a thank you to them. And now the baton has been handed over to Lieutenant General, now General Oluyede, who now has the task, even though we didn't get the report of what happened at that meeting, to ensure that he consolidates on the work that has been done by his predecessors to secure lives and properties, especially with regards to banditry, terrorism, herdsmen and farmer clashes, and ensure that we're able to get our people able to go back to work, go back to their farms, communities are restored, areas sacked by Boko Haram and other terrorist groups are able to be restored and restored in that manner. But let me go on to a topic, of course, that is very close to my heart this morning as well, which is with the resident doctors. Only yesterday, we were talking about how taxes can create wealth. I highlighted some critical areas that the government must be willing to invest in. In fact, on hearing the news of this strike action by the resident doctors come Saturday, 1st of November, I went to search for President Tinubu's campaign promises, particularly in the health sector, so that we can begin to hold them to account. 2023 to 2025, he had released the Renewed Hope Agenda, Reshaping Nigeria's Health System. One of the line items was an investment in infrastructure, an overhaul of the system, a reform of the health sector. And this body language or this promise was capitalized on in the budget cycle. If you look at the budget, the top 4 areas, debt servicing, security, education, and health, that's where money was put in. Yes, you might argue about whether or not the funds allocated in these areas or resources were adequate, but at least it showed the priority areas of this administration. Now, I want to appeal. According to Dr. Suleiman, whom we saw earlier, that's the president of NAD, Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, he had said politicians with ambitions, may they not ruin this country because they were giving bad counsel to the president. And they are not the first. Now, being a non-politician with ambition, I'm just a journalist who is here trying to, speak up for the people and be the voice of the Nigerian people. They have brought forward a 19-point agenda, and what they are asking for is not ridiculous or is not too much, if I were to put it that way. Part of what they've asked for is that their welfare allowance arrears, up to the tune of 35 to 38 billion naira, can it be paid? In fairness to this administration, it was inherited. It was based on the previous administration, and administration after administration have failed to do right by these resident doctors. Can the Tinubu administration, as part of its legacy, fix this disgrace to the Nigerian economy? The second part of it they're asking for is better welfare for the doctors. We've talked about a number of times the massive brain drain happening in the health sector, and how we are in a state of emergency in the health sector, where we now have less doctors who are qualified to actually attend to the needs of patients. How many of us have gone to hospitals and we see doctors who are not qualified attend to us because there's just a lack of qualified doctors, as many of them have jackpot, which is the famous word that has been used in recent times. They've moved abroad, looked to other countries for better welfare packages. In the past, they used to go to Australia, England, the United Kingdom, America. Now they go to other African countries, anywhere but Nigeria. Why? Because the conditions of service are just not suitable for any doctor to survive or to thrive. And so either you meet a doctor who has gone out of the country, or a doctor who is on the verge of going out of the country, or a doctor who is writing exams to run out of the country. At what point are we going to take the health sector seriously and not pay lip service to that area and actually invest? Some suggestions as to some funds that can be channeled there. EFCC has come out to talk about how they have been able to recoup billions of naira on behalf of the Nigerian people from corrupt officials. Can we channel some of that fund to the health sector? When it comes to taxes, Dr. Zacchaeus Adedeji has done greatly and has come out to announce a 22.59 trillion naira in 9 months revenue realization. Can we channel some of those funds to meeting the needs of these doctors? Until one is in an emergency, or we begin to hear, as we already hear, simple cases, Nigerians dying for simple cases that a proper health sector can fix, we should not wait until then to begin to pay serious attention. So let's not blame the resident doctors for going or embarking on strike and saying they are wicked. They've given enough notice, enough grace. It is time for Nigerians to do right by them. Better infrastructure, no more casualization of their workers, some of the 19-point agenda, and we are lending their voices so that we do not get to critical points in Nigeria and face the critical sectors: education, health very important. The same seriousness that was paid to the oil and gas workers when they were going to go on strike is the same seriousness and attention that should be given to the health sector in Nigeria. The other part of it is Professor Amupitan. We've talked about, and to be honest, we all want him to succeed, because in his success is a better and stronger democracy for Nigeria. But he himself has said that there are critical success factors for him to succeed, one of which is his legislature and the rule of law, that we need to strengthen our laws to support his work, because no matter what they do, if elections are decided in the courts, then it is a travesty for Nigerians. It means that voter apathy will increase because people don't believe that their voices or their votes matter. And that is why we must fix INEC and ensure that technology, as has been talked about a number of times, must be used and used efficiently and effectively for Nigerians to believe in the process once again. A number of things in PDP, they said that the deadline was over, so that the former Governor Sule Lamido should not make a noise out of what is not actually an issue. That the word is out there. I think Mr. Abdullahi, who is the National Deputy Publicity Secretary, had come out with a statement to say that this was the man only recently that was disparaging the PDP, who was saying he was now belonging to the ADC. So if it's not mischief, why is he now coming out to say that he wants to vie for the position of chairmanship? Well, the PDP will answer. He has said he'll go to court. Let's go to court and see what the results will be.